What kind of daughter calls her mother a burden? I stood there, rain soaking my coat, the weight of a hand-stitched blanket in my arms, and that question burned in my chest. I'd flown from Montana to Seattle, my first flight in 30 years, knees aching, heart racing through turbulence, all to surprise my adopted daughter Jasmine at her 10th anniversary party, a party I wasn't invited to. The blanket, embroidered with memories of her childhood, was my gift, each stitch a piece of my heart. But something felt off as I approached her house, the glow of light spilling onto the wet pavement. Why hadn't she called me back? Why the silence? I pushed the door, unlatched, and stepped into the warmth of her home. Laughter echoed from the living room, Jasmine's voice, bright and sharp, mixed with Ethan's low chuckle. I froze, clutching the blanket, as her words cut through the air. "I'm so done with that old woman's calls. Let's cut her monthly checks. She'll shut up then." Ethan laughed, cold and cruel. "What? She thinks she's your real mom? Lucky to be out of that orphanage, and now she wants love?" My hands shook. The blanket slipped, hitting the cold wooden floor with a soft thud. My heart pounded, a drum in my ears, drowning out the rain. They didn't know I was there, didn't see the mother they'd reduced to a bank account. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. If this story's grabbing you, hit that like button to let us know. I remember the day I taught Jasmine to read, her small fingers tracing letters in a sunlit Montana classroom, her smile brighter than the lake outside. I'd poured everything into her, every penny, every sleepless night, believing love could bridge the gap of blood. Now, standing in her doorway, that memory felt like a lie. My knees buckled, the ache in my joints screaming, but the pain in my chest was worse. It wasn't just their words, it was the laughter, so casual, so final. I wanted to scream, to storm in and demand answers, but my feet wouldn't move. The air smelled of jasmine perfume, hers, and it choked me, a reminder of the daughter I thought I knew. I turned silent and stumbled back into the rain. The blanket lay on the floor, abandoned, like my trust. Each step to the street felt heavier, the Seattle chill seeping into my bones. I didn't confront them. I couldn't. Not yet. In that moment, I wasn't Clara Delaney, the woman who'd raised a child alone, who'd faced widowhood with grit. I was a shadow, invisible, used. At a dingy motel near the airport, I sat on a lumpy bed, the hum of a neon sign buzzing outside. My fingers traced the scars on my hands, years of work, of giving. Was I just a wallet to them? Had I ever been a mother? How do you measure a life given to someone else? Back in Montana, the lake outside my window shimmered under a gray dawn, its ripples whispering secrets I wasn't ready to hear. I sat at my kitchen table, Benny's warm weight against my leg, his soft panting the only sound in a house that felt too big, too empty. The sting of Jasmine's words in Seattle clung to me, sharp as the frost on the glass. I'd raised her, loved her, given her everything, yet she'd laughed, called me a burden. Why had I poured so much into her, and why did it feel like I'd lost myself along the way? The air smelled of coffee and old wood, my home a cocoon of memories. Photos lined the walls, Jasmine at 9, her eyes wide with wonder. Jasmine at 16, graduating with a shy smile. I'd adopted her from that orphanage, a scared girl with no one, and made her my world. My fingers traced the edge of a frame, the glass cool under my touch. I'd worked extra hours, skipped meals to pay for her school supplies, her clothes, her dreams. The creak of the floorboards under my feet echoed those late nights, hunched over bills, my eyes burning but my heart full. I thought love was enough. But now, sitting here, I wondered if it had ever been enough for her. I remembered one night years ago when Jasmine was 12. She'd had a nightmare, crawling into my bed, her small body trembling. "You won't leave me, right, Mama?" she'd whispered, her voice muffled against my shoulder. I'd held her tight, the scent of her hair like lavender, promising I'd always be there. That promise drove me through every sacrifice, every dollar scraped together. I paid for her college, her first apartment, even after she married Ethan. But when had her calls grown short? When had her visits stopped? I replayed a phone call from last year, her voice clipped through the receiver. "I'm busy, Mama. Ethan and I have plans. Maybe next month." The line went dead before I could reply, leaving a hollow ache in my chest. Benny nudged my hand, his fur soft and warm, grounding me. I scratched behind his ears, his eyes half closed in trust. He was my constant, unlike Jasmine, who'd drifted away after Ethan entered her life. I tried to pinpoint when it changed. Was it the wedding, where I sat in the back feeling like a guest in my own daughter's life? Or the months after, when her texts became excuses, her laughter reserved for him? I'd sent money for their rent, co-signed their credit cards, believing it was my duty. But duty to what? A daughter who saw me as a bank? I walked to the window, the lake's surface catching the light, a mirror of my fractured thoughts. My reflection stared back, lined and tired, but my eyes burned with something new, doubt. Had I been blind to Jasmine's distance? I thought of the savings I'd put in her name, the emergency fund she never mentioned. My hands clenched, nails biting into my palms. I'd given her my heart, my home, my future, but what had she given back? Her words in Seattle echoed, "Cut her checks, she'll shut up." The memory was a knife, twisting deeper. What does betrayal sound like? It's not just words. It's the laughter that follows, sharp and careless, slicing through the rain-soaked night. I stood outside Jasmine's Seattle home, my breath fogging in the cold, the embroidered blanket heavy in my arms. I'd come to surprise her, my adopted daughter, at her 10th anniversary party, a celebration I wasn't invited to. The door was ajar, spilling light and warmth onto the wet porch, but something stopped me, a prickle of unease, like a whisper I couldn't ignore. Why hadn't she wanted me here? What was she hiding? I stepped inside, the air thick with jasmine perfume, her scent once comforting, now cloying. My knees ached, the old joint pain flaring, but I moved silently, drawn to the voices in the living room. Jasmine's laugh rang out, bright and cruel, and Ethan's voice joined her, low and mocking. I froze, the blanket's weight pulling at my arms, as her words hit me like a slap. "I'm so done with that old woman's calls. Let's cut her monthly checks. She'll shut up then." Ethan snorted, his tone dripping with disdain. "What, she thinks she's your real mom? Lucky to be out of that orphanage, and now she wants love?" My heart stopped, a cold fist squeezing my chest. The blanket slipped from my hands, hitting the wooden floor with a muffled thud, the sound swallowed by their laughter. I remember the day I brought Jasmine home, 9 years old, her small hand clutching mine outside the orphanage. Her eyes were wide, scared, but she smiled when I hugged her, her warmth a promise of family. I'd sewn that moment into the blanket, a tiny embroidered heart, a symbol of our bond. Now, standing in her doorway, that heart felt like a wound. Their words weren't just cruel, they were calculated, reducing me to a paycheck, a nuisance. My hands trembled, the rain on my coat dripping onto the floor, each drop loud in my ears. I wanted to scream, to storm in and demand why. Why they'd used me, why they'd mocked the love I'd given. But my feet were rooted, my throat tight, the air heavy with betrayal. The room spun, the glow of their party lights blurring through my tears. I saw every sacrifice, nights working late, skipping dinners to pay her rent, signing for their credit cards. I'd thought it was love, but they saw it as leverage. Jasmine's voice echoed in my mind, her laughter a blade. "She'll shut up then." My chest burned, not just with hurt, but with rage. How long had they planned this? How many times had they laughed behind my back? I pressed a hand to the wall, the wood cold and slick, steadying myself against the storm inside me. I didn't confront them. I couldn't. Not yet. I turned, silent, and slipped back into the rain, leaving the blanket on the floor, a piece of my heart abandoned. The Seattle streets blurred past as I walked, the chill seeping into my bones, my pulse racing. At a motel near the airport, I collapsed onto a creaky bed, the neon sign outside buzzing like my thoughts. The room smelled of stale smoke and damp carpet, the walls closing in. I stared at my hands, scarred from years of giving, and saw myself clearly. Not a mother, but a wallet. "Lucky to be out of that orphanage," Ethan had said. The words looped, each one a fresh cut. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time. So, if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. What would you do if you were in my shoes? Share your thoughts in the comments. What do you do when your heart's been stolen, not by a thief, but by the one you called family? Back in Montana, the lake outside my window stretched still and gray, like a mirror holding my shattered reflection. I sat in my kitchen, Benny's warm fur pressed against my leg, his soft breath steadying me. Jasmine's words from Seattle, her laughter, Ethan's cruel jab, clawed at my mind, relentless. I'd given her everything, only to be mocked as a burden, a wallet. The pain was raw, but something else stirred beneath it, something sharp and unyielding. Could I take back what I'd given? Could I reclaim the woman I'd been before I poured my life into her? The air carried the crisp scent of pine, seeping through the cracked window, mingling with the faint must of my old house. My hands, scarred from years of work, rested on a stack of papers, bank statements, loan agreements, all bearing Jasmine's name. I'd returned from Seattle a week ago, the betrayal still fresh, and spent nights poring over these documents. Each one was a memory of sacrifice, co-signing their credit cards, paying their rent, setting aside savings for emergencies. My fingers trembled, not with sorrow now, but with clarity. I wasn't just a mother to them. I was a resource, drained dry. But what if I stopped? What if I took it all back? I remembered a moment years ago, signing a loan guarantee for Jasmine's first apartment. She'd hugged me, her eyes bright, promising to make me proud. The bank's fluorescent lights had buzzed overhead, the pen heavy in my hand, but her smile made it worth it. Now that memory felt tainted, a trick. Had she planned to use me even then? I pushed the thought away, focusing on the present. I needed help, someone to cut these ties cleanly. I called a lawyer, a quiet man named Harold, who'd helped me after my husband's death. His office was in town, a short drive, and I went the next day, Benny curled in the passenger seat, his warmth a small comfort. Harold's office smelled of leather and coffee, the walls lined with books, the light soft through a single window. He listened as I spilled it all. Jasmine's words, Ethan's cruelty, the money I'd given. "I want it to stop," I said, my voice steady though my heart raced. "The accounts, the loans, the inheritance, everything." He nodded, his pen scratching notes, and laid out a plan. Freeze the joint accounts, remove my name from their debts, rewrite my will to redirect my estate. "You can leave it to a cause," he suggested, "like a scholarship for orphans." The idea sparked something in me, a flicker of purpose. I gripped the armrest, the wood smooth under my palm, and felt a shift. This wasn't just about cutting ties, it was about rebuilding me. Back home, I sat with Benny, the lake's ripples catching the fading light. My mind churned, piecing together the plan. I'd supported Jasmine for years, believing it was love, but love doesn't mock, doesn't demand. I saw myself signing those papers, each stroke a step away from her hold. My chest tightened, not with fear, but with resolve. I thought of the savings in her name, the credit cards she used, the rent I'd paid. How much had they taken? How much had I let them? I whispered to Benny, "No more," and his tail thumped softly, as if he understood. What does justice feel like? It's not a shout or a clash. It's the quiet power of taking back what's yours. In my Montana home, the lake outside gleamed under a sharp noon sun, its light cutting through the windows like a blade. I sat at my desk, Benny's steady breathing at my feet, his warmth anchoring me. Jasmine's laughter from Seattle, Ethan's cruel words, still echoed in my mind, but they no longer owned me. I'd spent weeks with my lawyer, Harold, building a plan to sever their hold. Every account, every loan, every dollar I'd given. Today, I'd sign the papers to make it real. But would this act free me? Or would it spark a war I wasn't ready for? The air smelled of ink and old paper. The documents spread before me, crisp and final. My hands, scarred from years of giving, held a pen that felt heavier than it should. Each signature was a cut, freezing the joint accounts, removing my name from their credit cards, redirecting my will to a scholarship fund for orphans. I saw Jasmine's face in my mind, her smile from years ago, but it faded against the memory of her voice. Cut her checks, She'll shut up. My pulse raced, not with fear, but with purpose. I wasn't just stopping the money, I was reclaiming my dignity, my heart. I remembered a day years back, wiring money for their rent when Jasmine called, her voice rushed but grateful. "You're a lifesaver, Mama," she'd said, and I'd smiled, the bank's sterile hum in my ears, believing I was her rock. Now that gratitude felt like a lie, a mask for their greed. Had she ever meant it? I pushed the thought away, signing the last page with a steady hand. Harold nodded across the desk, his office warm with the scent of leather, the sunlight sharp through the blinds. "It's done," he said, his voice calm but firm. "They'll feel this soon." My chest tightened, a mix of triumph and dread. What would they do when the cards stopped working, when the bank called? The calls started that evening. My phone buzzed on the kitchen table, Jasmine's name flashing, then Ethan's. I let it ring, the sound sharp against the lake's soft lapping outside. The voicemail came first from Jasmine, her voice high, frantic. "Mama, there's a mistake with the accounts. Call me back, please." Then Ethan, his tone strained, no trace of his Seattle sneer. "Clara, the credit cards are locked. We need to talk." I stood by the window, the glass cool under my palm, watching the sun sink. Their panic was a pulse, loud and desperate, and it fueled me. The bank had warned them, just as Harold predicted. Their house loan was at risk, their lifestyle crumbling. My silence was my answer, stronger than any words. If you're cheering for my victory, smash that like button. What do you think about this moment of justice? Let us know in the comments. I paced the house, the floorboards creaking, Benny trailing me. The air felt lighter, the weight of their betrayal lifting with each ignored call. I saw every dollar I'd sent, every sacrifice, nights without heat to pay their bills, my savings drained for their emergencies. They'd laughed at me, but now the laughter was gone. My mind raced, replaying Ethan's voicemail, his voice cracking. "We need to talk." No, we didn't. I'd given them years, now I gave them nothing. The realization was electric, a surge through my veins. I wasn't the fool they thought I was. What grows in the ashes of a broken heart? I stood in my Montana garden, the soil cool under my nails, the scent of damp earth filling my lungs. The lake beyond shimmered, catching the soft gold of a late afternoon sun. Benny lay nearby, his fur dusted with dirt, his eyes half closed in contentment. Months had passed since I'd cut Jasmine and Ethan from my life, since I'd signed away their hold on my money, my trust. Their calls had stopped, their desperation fading into silence. I'd won my freedom, but the victory left a hollow space, a question that lingered like the breeze. Who was I now, without the daughter I'd raised? Could I find a new purpose, a new strength? The garden was my refuge, each seedling a small act of hope. I pressed a trowel into the earth, the metal's weight steady in my hand, and thought of the support group I joined weeks ago. The community center was a warm, cluttered room, smelling of brewed coffee and worn books. There, I met others like me, people betrayed by family, their stories heavy, but their eyes kind. I'd shared mine, my voice shaking at first, recounting Jasmine's laughter, Ethan's cruelty. "You're not alone," a woman named Ellen had said, her hand on mine, her touch warm and grounding. "You're enough, just as you are." Her words stayed with me, a seed of healing taking root. I remembered the loneliness after my husband's death 15 years ago. The house had been too quiet, the lake's waves my only company. I'd filled that void with Jasmine, believing her love would complete me. Now, kneeling in the garden, I saw how I'd clung to that belief, even as she drifted away. The memory was a pang, sharp but fading. I wasn't that woman anymore. I'd started painting again, the brushstrokes bold on canvas, the colors, blues, golds, mirroring the lake. Each stroke was a reclaiming, a piece of me I'd forgotten. The paint's sharp scent, the canvas's rough texture, woke something inside me, a spark I hadn't felt in years. At the support group, I spoke again, my voice steadier now. "I thought family was about giving everything," I said, the room quiet, the air warm with shared understanding. "But it's about respect, about seeing each other's worth." The group nodded, their faces soft, some tear-streaked. "You've given so much," a man named Tom replied, his voice gentle. "Now give that to yourself." His words hit deep like sunlight breaking through clouds. I looked at them, strangers who'd become my anchor, and felt a warmth I'd lost with Jasmine. They saw me, not as a wallet, but as Clara, scarred but standing. What lesson did you take away from my journey? Share it in the comments. If this story inspired you, share it with a friend who needs to hear it. I walked to the lake's edge, Benny trailing me, his tail brushing the grass. The water was clear, reflecting the sky's deepening hues. My reflection stared back, older, lined, but stronger. I thought of the scholarship fund I'd created, the money once meant for Jasmine now lifting others. It wasn't revenge, it was purpose. My hands, caked with soil, felt alive, capable. I'd rebuilt myself, not from anger but from resilience. The group, the garden, the paintbrush, they were my new roots, deeper than blood. What does it mean to find family? I sat by the lake, the Montana sun warm on my face, its golden light dancing across the water. Benny rested beside me, his fur soft under my hand, his slow breaths a steady rhythm. The air carried the scent of pine and damp earth, grounding me in this moment of quiet. I'd walked through betrayal, cut ties with Jasmine and Ethan, and rebuilt myself from the ashes. The scholarship fund I'd created was thriving, my story shared on YouTube to warn others. But something lingered, a final piece to my journey. What had I learned about love, about family, after all I'd lost? I held a letter, its paper worn from rereading, sent by a 19-year-old girl named Sarah, a recipient of my scholarship. My fingers traced her words, the ink smudging slightly under my touch. I'd started posting videos months ago telling my story, Jasmine's laughter, Ethan's cruelty, my fight to reclaim my worth. The laptop's glow had lit my nights, the lake's breeze cooling my skin as I spoke to strangers who became my strength. Sarah's letter was different, though. It wasn't just gratitude. It was a mirror, reflecting the truth I'd fought to see. I remembered the motel in Seattle, the night I overheard their betrayal. The neon buzz, the cracked mirror, my reflection broken and lost. I'd feared being alone, feared I'd failed as a mother. That fear had driven me, but it was gone now, replaced by something solid. I looked at the lake, its surface calm, and saw myself clearly, scarred but whole. I'd given Jasmine everything, believing blood didn't matter. But family isn't about giving until you're empty. It's about mutual respect, about hearts that see each other. I read Sarah's letter aloud, my voice steady, the words carrying over the water. "Thank you, Clara, for believing those without parents deserve love," she wrote. "Your fund gave me a chance, but your story gave me hope." The words settled in me, warm as the sunlight, heavy with meaning. She didn't know me, yet she saw me, not as a wallet, but as a woman who'd turned pain into purpose. I folded the letter, slipping it into my pocket, and felt Benny's nudge, his nose cool against my hand. He was my family too, loyal through every storm. Don't miss more stories like this. Hit that subscribe button now. If this story moved you, share it with someone who'd love it. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. I stood, the grass soft under my feet, and looked at the house behind me. Jasmine's photos still hung on the walls, but they no longer hurt. They were memories, not chains. I thought of the support group, the garden, the paintings I'd created, each a step toward this moment. My heart was full, not with anger or loss, but with gratitude. I'd built a family, not of blood, but of those who valued me for my heart, not my resources. Sarah's letter, the scholarship kids, the group, they were my legacy, proof that love could grow where betrayal once stood.